reason why I say this is because human beings think in images, but also human beings can't think without words. And so I'll give you this example. Have you ever experienced this where you've said, man, I should have thought about that before I said it? Right? That's probably happened to most of us. It's happened to me more times than I can count. And what that proves to me is that you can speak without thinking, but the reality is that you can't think without words. There's a lot of people out there on recruiting duty and they're wondering, man, what can I do to get better? You know, I feel like I understand the system. I feel like, you know, I have a good grasp on the process. I'm hitting all the steps. I just don't know why I'm not getting the result. And maybe you've gotten some results, but you want to increase, you want to multiply your results, and you want to develop the skill set to a level where it seems effortless, right? Man, I totally get it. I mean, I've been there before. What I want to share with you guys today is a secret to a supernatural development of your skill set. And I want to give you guys some practical things that you can do so that you can start to develop this supernatural ability that'll help you help other people, which in turn will help you help yourself. So, man, I guess, you know, I've been on recruiting duty for about 7 years now. This is my second tour. I did my first tour 2017 to 2020, and then COVID hit, and I'm glad I got to experience a little bit of the COVID wave during recruiting duty, but I'm glad that I got to leave during that season, because I do know that things started to get really difficult on recruiting duty, and people had to adapt and overcome. And I really feel like the Lord helped me get help. The Lord did a lot for me during those 3 years on recruiting duty, but I didn't know what He had done or what He had taught me until I reflected on that point in time in my life. And I feel like God allowed me to go back to the fleet so that I could understand what those 3 years of my life represented, but also so that I could reflect on what I did right and what I did wrong, and so that I could see the fruit of the choices that I had made on recruiting duty my first time, and so that I could eventually go back on recruiting duty with a different mindset, a different belief system, and ultimately what I believe to be a supernatural ability to help people develop and transform their lives. And really that's important, because that's exactly what we're doing out here as recruiters. We're not here, really, a lot of people focus too much on the contracting piece. I really don't believe that's what we're out here to do. The Marine Corps makes it about the contracts, but God put you here for a different reason, for a different purpose, and I believe that purpose, and it could be different for everyone on a specifics level, but I feel like in a general sense, God put us out here so that we could help people who are looking for purpose answer the call to purpose, and enter into an experience that will help them develop themselves for whatever God is going to have for them next. I truly do believe that the Marine Corps for me has been a proving ground and a preparation for God's calling on my life. And I feel like that's probably the reason why some people serve 4 years, other people serve 10, other people serve 20, you know, or anywhere in between. And I feel like that's because you know when God is calling you to what's next, you know. I think it's either that or people get out because they're done, or they don't have the patience or endurance to withstand the trial that God is putting them through. But either way, that's not really relevant. I guess what I'm here to share with you guys is what to do if you really want to continue to develop the skill set that'll help you be successful on recruiting duty. And for me, that's obviously, we all know this, but that's the skill set of communication. But I feel like there's a couple different layers to that. But in this video, I'm going to cover what I believe is the foundation of the skill set of communication, and that is something that has to do with mindset, but more specifically with what happens in your mind. Like, what is your mind set to? And I believe that what your mind is set to achieve, not just on recruiting duty from a success standpoint, but in life in general, is what what kinds of thoughts do you have, and what kinds of thoughts you have is directly correlated to what words you know, or how well do you organize words and thoughts in your mind. Now, the reason why I say this is because the reason why I'm telling you words are important, language is super important, especially on recruiting duty, is because if you've been in the Marine Corps for 5, 7 years, 10 years, whatever, you've been speaking Marine Corps language for the last 5 or 7 years, or for however long you've been a Marine, okay? So you speak a different language than most people. And I feel like that's the first thing that you have to understand, that you need to adjust in order to be successful as a recruiter, because now you're not communicating with Marines, you're communicating with civilians. And so you have to understand that you have to communicate a different way. Your thoughts need to formulate a different way. And so you need to understand the correlation between words and the organization of the words that you utilize on a daily basis. And the reason why I say this is because human beings think in images, but also human beings can't think without words. And so I'll give you this example. Have you ever experienced this where you've said, man, I should have thought about that before I said it, right? That's probably happened to most of us. It's happened to me more times than I can count. And what that proves to me is that you can speak without thinking, but the reality is that you can't think without words. If you did not know intellectually what a word meant, then you could not formulate thoughts. And if you can't formulate thoughts, then you can't formulate images. And so a lot of what we do through communication on recruiting duty is helping people picture or envision their lives as what their lives could be like as a Marine. And so what I'll say is this, okay? And I'll give you this example, and this is why it matters. And then I'll go into what to do practically so that you can start developing this skill set. So if I say let me start over. If I say the dog bit Johnny, you're picturing a dog, whatever type of dog comes to mind, biting a little kid, right? But if I say Johnny bit the dog, you envision something completely different, right? And so that's super important, because if you notice, it's the same exact words. I didn't add anything. Same words, different order. So it flips, right? So really what you're doing as a recruiter is you're organizing words in a way that flips, that changes people's perspective on the Marine Corps. And that's really, really important to understand, because you could be saying something that is forming a picture in someone's mind that's not beneficial to what you really want the outcome to be, which is for them to feel inspired about becoming a Marine. And so here's here's some practical things that you can do on a daily basis to help you organize your thoughts, okay? The first one, I'm gonna tell you right now, at first, I used to think it was gay. I used to think it was whack, right? I thought that journaling or keeping a diary, I thought that was for losers. I thought it was for girls. But come to find out, it's been one of the things that's helped me develop my ability to communicate the most over the course of these, probably like the last 3 years. So I've been journaling consistently for the last 3 years, and I can tell you that it's definitely significantly helped me. And so keep a journal, right? Keep a journal every day. I write my thoughts in there every day, what I think about. And also, well, now it's become more so of almost like a prayer book, actually, or just a way that I communicate with God. But at first, it was just me sharing my thoughts with myself, in a sense. And the reason why that's helpful is because you can go back and read it, right? Like if I go back to an entry from, let's just say yesterday, I can go back and read my thoughts, and I can say, oh dang, that doesn't even sound right. And that can start to give you some insight into, like, okay, how am I really communicating? Am I communicating effectively? Because think about it like this: if the thoughts that you have in your mind, you're transferring them from your mind onto a piece of paper, and they don't even make sense to you, well, that's a problem, because now when you communicate them to other people, it's probably not making sense to them either. That's why you're having a difficulty, right? So that's number one. Journal every single day. Start with your thoughts, and every day go back and reread your entry from yesterday to see, are my thoughts becoming more organized, right? And I'm going to kind of give you like a pro tip on this, right? Journal what you would want a conversation with an applicant to be like, right? Because when you journal that, let's say you want to talk to somebody about educational benefits. Okay, start journaling the conversation. Maybe not necessarily what the applicant would respond, but what you would try to convey to that applicant, and then read it, right? Read it and see like, okay, cool, like that actually doesn't sound right. Or maybe have somebody else read it and see, and then ask them like, hey, read this real quick, and then tell me what you understand from that, because that's going to help you. Realize if your message is truly translating to the receiver, right? I'm the person that's sending the message, and the other person has to be able to receive it. But if they're not able to receive it the way that you are communicating it, then there's a gap there. And all we really need is to make the adjustments, maybe in the structure of the message, or remove things that aren't necessary, so that you can communicate more concisely and with more clarity. And that's going to help you a lot. Okay, the second tip that I want to go over is if you want to develop your skill set in communication, you have to read more. Okay. So the first thing was journaling. The second thing is you have to read more, because I find that anyone who writes a book, typically, right? Anyone who writes a book is probably a good communicator. Now, what kind of books do you want to read? I don't really know. That's up to you. You might have a preference. For me, I like reading books they're self-development books. Why do I like to read self-development books? Well, because you have to understand, you have to remember that you're on a duty where you're helping people make a transformation. Now, I've found that in order to help anyone out, to navigate through any experience, it helps if you've gone through the experience first, right? That's why helping someone become a Marine makes you extremely qualified. If you're a Marine on recruiting duty, you are extremely qualified to help someone become a Marine. Why? Because you've already been through the experience. If you feel a little lost helping people do that, it's probably because you haven't reflected on the experience enough to be conscious of what actually happened during the transformation for you, and be able to translate that to other people. That's when you don't know how to do that, when you don't know how to transfer the skill set onto someone else, even though you know how to do it, that's called being an unconscious competent, meaning you're good at doing it, but you're not good at teaching it to other people. And so when you are going through this experience, this process of helping someone develop to become a better person, you should also be going through a process that's helping you develop to become a better person, because that applicant that you're working with, or that pulley, every time they come to you, if they learn something new from you, you're basically pouring more value into that experience for them, and that helps them be more committed to the experience. And not only that, but it helps them reach out to other people and say, hey, dude, my recruiter is really helping me, this guy's a helper. And I will tell you this, that's the secret to referrals, is being a helper and a mentor, right? Rather than just going out and getting, contracting them and then forgetting about them, because how people portray you is going to make a huge difference on whether or not you're going to get referral business. And I feel like referral business, for me at least, is the best compliment that a recruiter can get, or any person in any sales environment, because that tells you that you've brought more than enough value for the person who's receiving it, that they can't contain it. They gotta go and share it with other people. So going back to the reading portion, right? When you read more, it helps you not only develop your ability to receive messages, because communication it goes both ways, right? And one of the things that they teach us to do in BRC is listen with purpose. Well, some of us aren't really good at that, but I'll tell you that's probably one of the most important things that you could learn to do as a recruiter is listen with purpose. That means pay attention, receive the information, decipher, right? And filter through what the applicant, not only what the applicant is speaking or saying, but what they really mean by what they're saying. That's going to help you be a better, and I guess you could say, interpreter of what they need in order to make that transformation in their life. I like to read a lot of books. One of my goals this year is to read as many books as there is months in the year. So 12 books a year, man, that's nothing, right? Some of us watch freaking 2 movies, 3 movies, 4 movies on the weekend on Netflix. You know what I mean? So 12 books, 1 book a month isn't really that much of a big deal. So read more books, man. That's practical tip number 2 is read more books. You want to be a better recruiter. You want to be more successful. You want to help your applicants more. Read more books. That's tip number 2. Tip number 3, and this one I feel like I'm going to say that this is the most important thing for me, because this is really what gives my ability to communicate a supernatural advantage, and that is read the Word, read the Bible, be in communion and in a relationship with God. Why? Because I'm telling you this, the Lord revealed this to me. Because the Lord has been, I think, convicting me to help other recruiters understand their assignment and accept their calling, because God has called you to recruiting duty, obviously to help other people, but also to mold you, to develop you, because there's a season there's a new season of life at the other end of recruiting duty. You already know that. But if you don't develop what you need to on recruiting duty, when you get there, you're not going to be strong enough to stay there. And I know a lot of us Marines, man, we are really good at setting big goals, man. I'm telling you, I know it. But what we lack is the development, and the development sometimes is more important than reaching the actual goal. The process of becoming who we're supposed to become in order to get to the goal is a lot more important than actually achieving the goal anyways. And that just tells me that goals are supposed to be for growth and not for attaining things, right? So when you get into the Word, okay, God revealed this to me. Because it's crazy, because everything I teach, I've taught my team, everything I teach any other recruiter, it comes from Scripture, on how to inspire people, how to motivate people, how to help people not only step into faith towards the transformation, but how to actually make the changes in their life that'll solidify that transformation and sustain it. And a lot of that is here in the Word. And the reason why I feel God has made this this is so important to Him is because Jesus was a recruiter. He recruited His disciples. He called on other people to join His cause and His purpose. And that is why He cares so much about recruiters. That is why He cares so much about you. That is why He has called you to this duty, is because He wants to develop you, but also He wants you to accept the calling that He's had on your life. And when you do that, it makes helping other people accept the calling that God has on their life that much better, that much easier, that much simpler. And that's how you start to see the principles that God has put in the Word to help multiply things on the earth, right? Everything, by the way, everything on the earth happens by law. And who made those laws? That God made those laws, right? He built the earth in such a way that we could predict what was going to happen next. But the only way we can predict what's going to happen next is if we understand how things happen in God's kingdom. So man, I can't emphasize this enough. I don't know if you're watching this, if you've never picked up the Bible, that's okay. I didn't pick up a Bible until I was 28 years young, you know. I've had access to a Bible my entire life. I grew up in the Catholic Church. I had a Bible in my house somewhere at all times, sometimes even on my nightstand, but I never read it. But I can tell you this. The first time that I picked up my Bible and read it at 28 is one verse that changed my entire life. It was Genesis 28:15. When I read that verse, I literally heard God speak to me. And I believe that God has put you on this duty not only to help other people and to mold you and to develop you for the next season of your life, but I feel like God has put you on this duty also to be in closer relationship to Him. Why? Because you're in the valley, man. You're in the valley of shadow of death. Tell me that sometimes it doesn't feel like your life is ending on recruiting duty. Tell me that this isn't the hardest thing that you've ever done in the Marine Corps. You know, and that's because God has called you through the valley to get to the other mountain, you know. And you were sitting on this mountain. This is Mount Just Enough, you know. And now God's called you down the mountain of just enough, which is the fleet, right? Comfortable, you know, like doing the thing day to day, right? Getting a paycheck. I could work, not work, doesn't matter, right? Getting paid. And now God's called you into the valley. And this valley that you're in is called recruiting duty, right? And guess what? I'm telling you right now, when you're in the valley, that's when God is the closest to you, right? Because He's leading you through the valley. But if you don't lean on Him, you know, how could you have hope for what's on the other side of the valley? Because once you get through the valley, guess what? The other side of the other mountain, right? Because a valley has to, like by nature, the valley is in between two mountains. And the other mountain, that's called Mount More Than Enough, you know. Mount More Than Enough. That's abundance. That's prosperity, man. That's kingdom. That's the kingdom experience that God is calling you to. So don't miss what God is actually trying to do in your life. And use these things, man. Use these things that I've given you to develop what God is calling you to develop, because man, we're on a different plane here. And I hope you guys understand that. Like in the fleet, it's physically demanding, right? Most jobs are physically demanding in the Marine Corps, you know. Here on recruiting duty, the job is mentally, emotionally, and spiritually demanding. But the reason why that is because the battle for the soul happens in the mind. And I know you may have not seen it like this, may not understand it like this, you haven't seen it like this before, but you're really saving souls, man. You're really helping people repent from lives of comfort, you know, lives of you know, mediocrity and being average. We say that all the time, right? And you're helping them fight for what they actually want in life and putting them in a place like the Marine Corps where they're going to get all the resources they need to develop and prepare for the next season of their life, because there will always be a next season, you know, until we die, right? And then we get to enter eternity. And what we do here on this earthly realm dictates how we get to live in eternity. And I feel like we can't miss that, because God's plan is eternal, you know. So, man, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. If you found value in what I shared with you today, please leave a like, comment, give me some feedback, and share with anyone who you feel is going to benefit from this message. I hope these things help you guys. Until next time, stay blessed, stay faithful. See y'all later.